Hi, everyone. Today's Sunday. Welcome to the Love Remembers Daily Show, where we bring you an insider's perspective on all of the latest breaking news, obviously including Russia, Ukraine, and our one and only President, Donald J. Trump, and his administration. Today's a little bit special show. Usually we don't come up on a Sunday, but there were some crazy things that happened on Friday. We had the President Zelensky that came to the Oval to sign the mineral deal, and instead got into a screaming match with the president, the vice president, and ended up getting thrown out of the White House. But the interesting part is he didn't go straight home. On the way home, he ended up making a stop, and he stopped in the UK, where he has gotten some real strong support. There was a deal signed for 100 years, I think, and we have some great guests that are going to come up and talk about it more and explain. And so why don't we just jump into it and get right into it? So we have some great guests up here. We have Yehuda, we have Piotr. I think we have Malcolm up there. Can you take a look, go down, see if Malcolm is in there? I think. Yeah, there we go. Let's add Malcolm.
Yeah,
we got Malcolm. We got Malcolm here. We have an incredible panel. Let's just jump right into it. Alex, you pretty much have a lot of info that's going on right now in Ukraine and in actually what's happening with their meeting. Why don't you tell us, bring us up to speed what's happening right now? I heard that they met with them. Go ahead.
Hello, thanks for having me. Hello, everybody as well. Well, as far as this meeting goes, Ukraine is on its toes for president support. The entire everybody, all the channels, everybody's proclaiming that it was a setup, that the president was set up to take the minerals from Ukraine, and they support him 100%. And plus, as far as the Europe goes, this has started a couple of weeks ago when Trump first said that he's thinking twice about staying with NATO. They were waiting for the elections to finish, and as soon as they finish, the first thing that new future chancellor of Germany did is he flew to France and asked for because he doesn't believe in U.S. anymore, he asked for nuclear support from France. Then they met all three together and they decided to form an alliance. And you're right, as soon as the meeting was over, Zelensky made two phone calls. First to Ursula, to the president of the NATO, and then he made the second call to Starmer. And then he went straight to Starmer. They had a great meeting. Zelensky was right in the middle. Macron came out and said that Russia is the aggressor. Russia will not stop by itself. We need to stop it before it gets to the World War III. And on Thursday, they have another meeting, emergency meeting, to continue talking about it. Also, they signed the deal that they're giving Ukraine another 5,000 missiles within weeks. And after the meeting, Zelensky took a helicopter ride to meet King Charles. So as Trump is waiting for his trip, Zelensky is already there.
So, yeah, no, that's definitely that's an interesting one. I can tell. I know Zelensky, I know Trump, I know these people personally and individually, and Malcolm knows them also. And I could tell you that was a different Zelensky in that White House. He did not come down to. He had some aces. You know, when Trump said you have no cards, I think Trump was a little senile at that moment because I think Zelensky had all the cards, and that's why he came, because he knew he had the support. That's why he left right there, going right back to Europe. And I think it was kind of understood. I think the whole world understands where Trump stands and can't believe the great, his alliance towards Russia. I mean, people are literally thinking that he's an asset. People are literally thinking that he's a Russian KGB asset because of the way he's behaving. I mean, and I can tell you, I don't think he's a KGB asset. I mean, nobody. I mean, I'd be surprised if it is. Maybe Malcolm could talk to that more than. But yeah, go ahead, Alex.
I would like to add something else. With this trip to the White House, as I already said on your show, that all this time from day one, Trump was saying that first, he underlined it. First, I'm going to meet with Putin, then I'm going to meet with Zelensky. So this trip, Zelensky had two things. Number one, he wanted to meet him first, even though Trump tried to cancel the meeting 2 days in advance. Zelensky called Macron, Macron called Trump, and the meeting was still on because Trump was going to cancel it. This is
No, I
obvious.
know they tried to stop the, even Kellogg, I mean, it was reported already, they came in and tried to stop the meeting because they knew that they're gonna berate him, that's the whole plan.
Yeah, but that was the first thing. And the second thing, Zelensky was on the center stage. He was a message for Russia that Ukraine will not be pushed and will not be pressured. So his two objects were accomplished, and the third object was the way Trump handled him. Europe opened arms to welcome him and said, "Now you're with us." And if you see on the summit, who was there first again? Canada.
Yeah, but you know, the important part, Alex, it all looks great, but we need Europe to actually not fulfill what, I mean, yes, they're all standing there, they're saying they're supporting, and we speak about this on Spaces all the time, but they need to actually now stand up and support and put up their money. It's like put up or shut up time, and that's where we are right now.
100%. And at the end of the meeting, they said that I read an article when it says Trump said this is European problem. So now Europe is going to put together a peace plan. And once it's ready, he'll show it to US what it looks like. So this is becoming EU problem.
Well, I think we all understand it's an EU problem. Trump made it sound. Malcolm, you want to jump in on any of that?
Yeah, I actually want to talk to the point about where we're talking about Trump being a Russian asset or in love with Russia. I know everyone has very different opinions. I've written 4 books now about the Trump administration. And the first one that I wrote, The Plot to Hack America, came at this point, July 2016. I got it actually published 6 weeks before the election. I mean, we got that thing done in 5 weeks. And it was essentially an intelligence analysis dump of what had to be in place by Russian intelligence after the DNC hacks and leading up to the Guccifer 2.0 character who claimed he had actually hacked the DNC. And I had already seen indicators that it was a Russian intelligence operation. On February 2016, there was a report for some obscure website and saying that Putin had all of Hillary Clinton's emails. And I was asked this by Chris Matthews on MSNBC. And I said, there's no way. This is crown jewels intelligence. You wouldn't know what the top 5 guys in the Kremlin are talking about. And they wouldn't have leaked to some obscure website. Then lo and behold, 3 weeks later, Guccifer 2.0 pops up claiming he has all those emails from the DNC and other places. And then by July, it was becoming obvious that Russia was claiming that they had them. So I went on air and said, hey, this is an intelligence operation, right? This is really Moscow has been planning this out. But this is what I wrote in Plot to Hack America. I wrote that book backwards. From the moment Trump came on 2 days after I had gone on MSNBC and said the United States is under attack. We are under attack in an information operation designed to elect Donald Trump. Trump comes out and does his Russia, if you're listening, please release 30,000 Clinton emails. And I thought, this has worked its way from the Kremlin to him. Yeah. But more importantly, when I went back and broke out the people, the resources, the number of English linguists watching television, it was very clear that this was a massive Russian intelligence operation.
Yeah,
just massive. And then, of course, we see Maria Butina and all these other characters who were SVR intelligence officers. And that's when I wrote in my second book, The Plot to Destroy Democracy, what is Trump to them? What would this be? And this is where we found out that Czech intelligence had been reporting on him. Ivana, her father, had been reporting on him to Czech intelligence since 1977. When the kids came over, Ivanka, Don Jr., and Eric, they were all under observation by STB, right? The Czech intelligence agency.
Oh,
And
especially
they
go
were,
back to the 80s. Yeah.
yeah, and they reported everything to the KGB dutifully. And we know this because Czech television, I think it's two, has all the original files. They have all the
That's right.
original files, and you can go read them. They put the archive up. Ivana's father was the reporting collector to Czech intelligence because communist country, he had to do it. He was forced to do it. All of this aside, by 1987, the KGB had information that Trump wanted to run for president with like the American Freedom Party, I think he was going to call it, to run against George Herbert Walker Bush, who was the former director of the CIA, right?
Yeah, remember that.
And the Russians knew about this before anyone in America knew because Ivana called her father and told him this. Within months, the Soviet Union is inviting him to Moscow. He was going crazy over the Gorbachev mania. He couldn't. He had that fake Gorbachev come to his office at Trump Tower. I don't know if you remember that.
A lot
And
of people, that's the crazy. A lot of people don't remember the 80s and the Gorbachev and the
yeah,
Cold War. They
and
forget
he
what it was
wanted,
like.
but he took out a full page ad in the New York Times saying he wanted to be the nuclear weapons negotiator for the START II treaties. And he was saying, I should be a statesman. No one can make deals like I could. That was stuck in his head. The Soviets paid attention. New York did not. They brought him to Moscow within months. He went there to look at a Soviet brutalist Trump Tower, Moscow. Didn't work out because, of course, they got no money. But
Right.
fast forward to where KGB Junior Colonel Vladimir Putin, whose office I visited in Dresden, by the way. I read his files there and the Stasi files. I spoke to people that knew him who were his biographers. And when he became director of KGB or FSB, and then became prime minister, then president of Russia, by 2012, when Trump was making hints to, I believe his name is Rolobolov. He's an
Roosevelt, yeah.
oligarch, and
Yeah.
texted to him that Rolobolov, Trump texted to him that he could have beat Barack Obama and Mitt Romney was a loser, and that he said to Trump, "I'm ready to stand with you. We're ready to assist you." 1 week later, Trump registers "Make America Great Again" PAC. And then he goes to Russia for Miss Universe. At this point, Putin, who is a manipulator, he is a KGB officer. He loves to flip people. That was his big thing in Dresden.
People have no idea when we say this is a big problem. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mark, and
Mhm.
you're going to continue. But when
Yeah.
we say KGB, people don't know what the KGB is. It's been so long that there's been already 3 decades have passed, almost going on since,
Yeah.
and the new generation they don't know. So they think, KGB. No, the KGB
No.
was some serious dudes. Like what you say, go
Evil
ahead, evil.
Incorporated.
Oh my God.
Evil Incorporated. Look, one of the things, I'm on the board of the International Spy Museum in DC, and we have an ex-KGB general, Oleg Kalugin, who
He's
great guy.
crazy. No joke. No joke.
Oleg, and he hates Putin because he was like, "You mean that junior colonel who's in Dresden? No one knew about this guy. He's a loser." But Putin did like to flip people. He loved to flip assets. And while other KGB officers were there drinking beer and eating sausages, he was flipping people. He loved the art of human manipulation. And so in 2012, when they're like, hey, this Trump guy wants to come here, he wants to build Miss Universe. He's sort of a pervert. He's running the Miss Universe here in Moscow. You can almost see the wheelbarrows of collection about Donald Trump from 1977 to 2012 being rolled into Putin's office because a good human intelligence officer will read everything. You won't take a
That's
summary
right.
report. You'll say, let me see the first phone call in 1977. Let me see the reports on the kids in 1986. Let's see this with the reports from the KGB when he came in 1988. And he would go, I can own this man. I can own him. He's easy to manipulate. So when Miss Universe happened, Putin, he had that meeting with the 12 richest men in Russia at the Nobu restaurant during the Miss Universe pageant. One of Putin's representatives came in. And Trump was so enamored with meeting him because he thought, I'm going to get $1 billion building, the Trump Tower in Moscow built. And Trump didn't understand who he was playing with because Putin is technically the richest man in Russia, right? He could arguably be
technically, I think
considered.
rich man in the world, I think.
Yeah, he could
I mean,
technically be considered a
yeah.
trillionaire because he has all of these things.
Yeah.
But Trump in 2012 thought, I'm going to get him by offering him the top 2-floor penthouse at Trump Tower, Moscow. It's like that showed me the gap between Trump's mindset and Putin's. And Putin, from that moment on, had Trump saying nothing but good about him. When he invaded Crimea, Trump in 2014 said, well, he's a strong leader. He's a strong leader. Barack Obama's a weak leader.
Yeah, he told me when we had dinner, he said, I mean, Moscow is strong. Ukraine is weak. I mean, they can't survive without us. I mean, that's how he looks at Ukraine. People don't realize that. I mean, that's the whole problem. He has a perception of what, he's not looking at Putin as now. He still has that perception of the old because Trump grew up through the Soviet Union, the Cold War. So he remembers it being powerful, strong. Trump has no idea that it's not even close to the same Soviet Union that you was.
But he lives in this little bubble that's grounded back in 1987 and his trip in 1988. And so when the money started flowing with the oligarchs, then you got Trump's attention. And then when I'm going to tell you something we did in the intelligence world about Al Qaeda and ISIS. Those guys were motivated to be suicide bombers. But the kind of women that they would go with, right, was they were always on the hunt with like Chechen and Western convert women. And they viewed the way a lot of American right-wing extremists view it. They view Russia as the last bastion of untouched white women. And they're just like, oh, hot chicks. We see them in porn. And this started the whole Russian wife thing in 1989. But this is how Trump sees that country. Pure Christian white people, hot strippers that'll do anything. I see him in Miami, in his head. He has this cartoonish version of what's going on there. That being said, in 1987, 88, he became a useful idiot. In 2012, I believe he became an unwitting asset. He was now under the control of a masterful KGB officer.
Oh, absolutely. Once they start giving him money, once they start buying up his apartments, I agree with you. That's a whole subject.
But by 2016, he knew they were working for him. And 3 of my books say this. And then the Mueller report came out and verified every word of it. And he became, I believe, a witting asset. Now, the reason I don't call him an agent is a person who is openly committing treason. They are betraying their country.
I'm with you 100%.
They get tasked. They get fixed financial payments. Snowden's a fucking agent now, right?
Yeah.
He went
Trump's not an agent. Correct.
Trump's not an agent, but Trump is so easily manipulated. He has adopted the entire worldview of Moscow. So he acts as an agent, expecting future reward, not receiving tasking because he knows what the tasking is. That's my take on it. He's a witting asset.
Oh, I agree with you 100%, and that's that he and a lot of people, don't understand. You really have to look at Trump's history going back to the 80s and 90s, especially in New York, when his relationship with the Russian community and the Russian oligarchs and the KGB. Because when we say Russian oligarchs, you cannot become a Russian oligarch unless you're a controlled partner up or have something to do with the KGB. You don't have to be. You're not a KGB agent. but you're definitely somehow, either Putin gave that to you or they put you in a position. You don't just, it's not America, folks, where you just, decide that one day you're going to, and Malcolm will tell you it doesn't happen that way.
No,
So all of these
yeah.
people, yeah. So
Well,
all
let
of
me
these
answer it.
yeah.
You're
Go ahead.
absolutely right.
I saw an interview today of a ex-top KGB agent who's right now lives in Canada, and who was at that
Canada,
time.
Yehuda, we have a specialist, Yehuda, in Canada. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
And he was at that time, he was head of all the KGB FSB stuff, and he said that Trump is not an agent, but he's a self-driving agent. He's not an
Yes,
official
that's
agent.
exactly
He's a
it.
That's exactly.
self-driving
That's
Call it
exactly
a
what
Tesla agent, a Tesla agent, right?
Yeah, Tesla
it is.
agent. So
That's a good
he
one.
is a
Tira. I should
willing
post
asset who
that.
knows
That's a
where the
good
money's coming from, and he will do what he needs to do. But this is the only place you see the gaps between Putin and Trump. When Trump's ego gets the better of him, he breaks with what Putin wants. But I'm almost certain that at Helsinki, Putin, when those private meetings brought him on board, he's one step below an actual tasked agent. But Trump
Oh yeah.
wants Putin to be happy.
And
And he now believes the worldview of Dugin, Steve Bannon, and Elon Musk.
And the other thing which I'm going to add to Malcolm is that that's Trump's interaction, and I agree with you 100%. But there's also then another layer of interaction that happens in Trump world, like the Jared Kushners of the world that are dealing
Right.
with the like I said, the Kirill Dmitriev that maybe Alex could touch on later if he wants to. I mean, that are working together, that are also influencing and telling him his opinion, like yes, this is what needs to be. So when we say KGB operative, it's not like one person. I mean, they have plenty of people. I mean, they have people in New York, people that you would never even expect. Like then we found out like the Maria Burtanovas of the world that are implanted that might be here for 20, 30 years, might be here for 10 years, might be have money, might be a regular person in his campaign. But there's constantly in your ear with that same Russian propaganda that they're pushing and that they're showing you. And I agree with you. I want to introduce also Tira. Hey, Tira, how are you? Yehuda. Hey, guys.
Hi, how are you?
So, yes. Yeah,
Hi there.
Hi there.
Yehuda, what do you want to say on this topic?
Oh no, just listening. It's we had a great conversation earlier, right? We had I think over 35,000 listeners, Malcolm, just from that couple hours. That was meaningful, and I guess for those who are listening, the next time we'll arrange it a little better. It was my fault. I was driving rurally through the country, and the phone cut
and
off.
I was driving through Boca, so yeah, we'll definitely get it arranged and a lot better.
But you know what?
next
If
time.
you want, there's some questions people have messaged us that they might
let's
have.
do that.
If you want, I'll
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Why don't you do that?
Well, let's go to Tira for an introduction. I'll look up the messages that people asked you.
Okay, you want to ask me first, or want me to say? So I actually wanted to respond to something Malcolm said.
Go ahead. Why don't you respond in the meantime, Tira?
Okay, I think it's really interesting that what we're seeing now is that the U.S. is discussing withdrawing its troops from Poland, Baltic states, etc., which is exactly what Russia asked for in December 2021 as part of their demands, their non-negotiable demands, not to invade. Another demand was that Ukraine not be allowed to enter NATO. And in fact, that's exactly, Trump has basically given up these points to Russia, getting nothing back as far as I can tell. And that's very telling to me that he's literally going through the December 2021 points, which were not accepted by the United States or NATO or anything like that. And he's just giving them up with nothing.
Well, he believes it. This is that, you know what it is? It's that, the Timothy Snyder says, don't obey in advance of dictators, right? Trump obeys in advance because he loves the guy. I believe it was the Prime Minister of Australia who said he's just madly in love with him. He looks at Vladimir Putin like the cheerleader looks at the high school football coach, team captain. And that tells you that his Kim Jong-un love is his far distant admiration of Xi. when I wrote in Plot to Destroy Democracy that they were out to create an axis of autocrats. Well, this is exactly what it is. It's an axis of autocrats.
Well, the
And we're
visual,
going to join.
Malcolm, the visual of Trump as the prom queen is something that will not leave me very soon. So thank you
There's
for
video.
that.
People have done AI videos of it already. You're way behind.
I'm way behind the curve then.
No, but guys, you have to say he graduated because I wrote about it in my book, Shadow Diplomacy. I mean, because he grew up in New York dealing with, before dictators, he dealt with mobsters. He dealt in his, building in New York, and he dealt with the guys like Sammy the Bull Gravano, Fat Tony Salerno. I mean, these were leaders of mafia leaders that he was dealing with and looked up to. Remember who his lawyer was and protege, who he looked up to. So that's why everything he did from strength. He did from, something like, and he runs, and I still say to this day, he runs the White House like a mob boss, not like any politician you've ever seen or like any businessman. Because it's like, either do it my way or I'm going to, it's like scorched earth. There's no diplomacy. There's no conversation. Show me one conversation that he's had with anybody about any subject where he talked about diplomacy-wise, where the person had a chance to respond, where it was a back and forth. No, you're going to do it my way. And if you don't move my way, I'm going to scorch earth. Well, what's the worst way I can hurt you? Tariffs or, cut off. I mean, that's the mob mentality. But the problem is that when you're a dictator, it's a little bit different. And this is where Trump is stepping into waters that he's not. Because, these guys are there for 20, 30 years. Like, yes, Putin's there, even before that, he was a KGB agent, then became, he's been ruling for over 20 years. I mean, these guys are there we go through 4.
All right. Has Lev disappeared?
Oh, we lost Lev.
What?
All right, let's do a takeover.
I'm almost certain he didn't plug his phone in, right? He was at 1% this whole time.
So I want to say something. Can I mention something?
Sure,
this concept that Trump is the deal master extraordinaire. First of all, he didn't write the book. Tony Schwartz wrote the book. I don't actually think he is the deal master extraordinaire at all. I think he just basically, if you look at the North Korean deal, which was a non-deal deal, 4 sentences saying, hey, be nice to me and I'll be nice to you, and maybe something will happen. If you look at the Afghanistan withdrawal papers that he signed, this was not a terrific deal for us. What Trump is really good at is marketing and saying, I'm the best deal maker in the world. Look what I've done. And I don't think he actually is the best negotiator or anything like that. I think we're seeing that with the Russia thing. He doesn't actually do a great job. If you look at his business dealings, you'll see that for years, he was not known as a real estate guy, to be perfectly honest. I live in New York. I've known about Trump for years and years. He was known as a marketer. He put his name on everything. That was his big strength. And the way he got started was because his father gave him the money and backstopped a $70 million guarantee for the Grand Hyatt Hotel. He was not what he's claimed to be. And the reason why America thinks he's so great is The Apprentice. And that to me was the worst thing that ever happened, because without The Apprentice, he was just a guy who, had some, certainly a well-known figure, but he had Atlantic, his casinos were going under, et cetera. And all of a sudden he was praised to America, or shown to America as this is the deal maker of the century. So I sort of blame them for a lot of this.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I by the way, I'm in New York right now. He's a artificially made character. I think it was James Burnett, the owner of The Apprentice, NBC, which is right across the street from me. Mark Burnett, right across the street from me. 30 Rock is exactly where all of this started, and NBC created a monster. What they did was they created, as what we say in the intelligence world, a meta narrative around this person as a competent deal maker, masterful, master of the universe with regards to doing business. And it was all fake. It's all a lie. And now America may be destroyed by it. The problem is you could explain this to people and they just won't be able to connect the numbers. And the only thing that's going to happen here is there's going to need to be pain. And that's when people will get their idea of whether he's good at something or not.
The questions from the audience that was last time, they kind of lean towards that circle of sycophants, Malcolm. They were talking about Tucker Carlson a recent interview with Jeffrey Sachs. Jeffrey Sachs completely
Right.
convinced that that he's going to make peace, that Trump can do it all, then goes through all the reasons why. Starting off the first segment said Viktor Orban, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, these people are, this is insane. Like, I mean, how are you doing it? And then the other questions is, how dangerous is Steve Bannon, right? There's a video, an interview Steve Bannon did with a Canadian journalist, where he kind of gets into some dark views about how he thinks of Canada, the U.S. So basically, the general question from the audience: who are the enablers in the media sphere? Who
Hey, guys, you
important
hear
is
me?
Tucker
I'm
Carlson?
sorry.
Jeffrey? Yeah, you're
Yeah, we
good.
hear you,
Yes,
Lev.
we can hear you, Lev.
Yeah, we were just talking about the
My
media
camera
types around
had
him.
too quickly, so I'm on my phone. So sorry about that. So I'm back with you. Go ahead, guys. Go ahead, Yehuda.
We were holding the fort down for you. Don't worry. We were just talking about Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, Jeffrey Sachs, all these people that might sound or look like thought leaders around the president. And this is from the audience from the previous chat. So they wanted to know what you and Malcolm and Tira and of course Alex think about it. How dangerous are they? Are they the Dugins to Putin, as as one might say, or are they potential to the situation?
Is it me or your? Is everybody else
It was to
here?
you or
Yehuda,
Malcolm.
okay,
Yeah,
because
it was
he
kind
was
of,
breaking.
I'm here. I'm fine. Go ahead,
yeah.
Malcolm,
So
Lev.
I couldn't hear Yehuda. He was breaking up. That's what I'm saying to you. Did you hear him fine? I couldn't hear
Oh
him.
yeah,
He
the
was
question
breaking up.
is, who are the enablers, right? Are the enablers really at fault here, or is this, is this part of a strategic plan? Let me tell you, when I wrote Plot to Hack America, which I didn't know a lot about, the entire world that was surrounding Donald Trump, but as a trained intelligence professional, it became very clear to me, very, very clear to me, that there are jobs, duties, roles, and functions which must be fulfilled, right? There has to be people, let me turn this on correctly. There have to be people in X job to do Y, right? And I was seeing every result of people in those jobs. And there are two types of enablers. There were the active intelligence officers. Then there were the facilitators from Russia. And then there was Team Trump itself. And my last book, Plot to Betray America, which is called How Team Trump how Team Trump embraced our enemies, and how we can fix it. By the way, we're past the how we can fix it part. But when Trump went along with them, they really knew that, when they did the hackings of the DNC and all of that stuff and used the Internet Research Agency, Team Trump picked it up and ran 1,000 times
That's right.
faster than Moscow could. They left Moscow behind. It's like you don't have to do anything. These people understand the mission, and they understand, they will achieve Moscow's goals without giving them any tasking. I mean, Putin must be just ecstatic. I mean, he isn't the greatest intelligence officer in the world, but he certainly has bought an American president, and everyone below him is a
That's a good.
sycophant.
It's not just the president, and not just the president. He
Mhm.
has the whole administration. I mean, we're not going to go into, but just think about Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh my
Just think
God.
about who's. I mean, like
And
it's insane.
Lev, these people were chosen because of
Yes,
the depth of their sycophancy and knowing that they could be controlled. Tulsi Gabbard was a former Democrat, but he knows all about her father's cult,
of
her
course.
relationship with Modi of India. All of these people are compromisable. Until, let me tell you, almost 40 years in U.S. intelligence, or working as a contractor. And I had never heard the word unclearable in my career, because you disappeared. You disappeared. You weren't just not cleared, right? I mean, I think the only place you could have heard that was in the FBI offices or the offices of the Defense Investigative Services. And they probably have a big rubber stamp, right? Boom, unclearable. And then in the first Trump White House, they approved 32 unclearable persons.
I mean,
And the people they got rid of, Seb Gorka, guys who were foreigners that they wouldn't give clearances to, Jared Kushner, Now they're giving them clearances, sight unseen, no investigations. So we're gonna see the bad part of this.
You literally can't make this shit up. It's just, watching this play out in plain sight and the way, but you know what's even more sad, what really kills me, at least with Trump, guys, I mean, with Trump, we know what to, I mean, by now, even if you don't know him, you know him. You understand that he could come out and do some crazy shit. Even certain people that he's put around him, the loyalists. But the people that really get to me is the people in Congress, Senate, and guys like Marco Rubio. Are you kidding me, Malcolm? Marco Rubio, if we go back and take a look at all the video and all the tapes and all the interviews he's ever done against Putin, against Ukraine, how and everything, and then to watch him just shift completely. I mean, completely. Like now I understand why Trump was calling him little Marco. You know what I'm saying to you? I mean, it really is just disgusting to see. And then the other thing is, all of these people, the only reason they're in there, yeah, Trump could nominate them, but you still needed a Senate approval. And to watch these people fold, the same exact congressmen and senators that went for years have been going around talking about how these same people that they're trying to confirm that will never be confirmed, they just confirmed them. Each and every one of them. Not one of them didn't get confirmed. Not one of them. Everyone got confirmed. Because they use scare tactics. Because it's not just Donald Trump. You now have the richest man, Elon Musk, that is warning you that if, God forbid, you go against us, we're going to primary you. We're going to put up all that money and we're going to make sure that we get rid of you. I mean, it's incredible to watch, but that's what really, I think it gets to, people out there, it's, that are allies that are losing trust in us. It's not what Donald Trump is doing, but what people like Marco Rubio. You see all of these senators out there, they're today on the State of the Union, they're coming up there and saying, that we regret that we voted to put Rubio in. We never thought that he would not stand up to Trump when this happened. I mean, I don't know, when you have such support, I don't know how you stop something like this. I mean, is the only way is waiting till the next 2 years until it's the midterms? I mean, is there nothing that could be done earlier to protect? Because otherwise, I mean, I mean, it's only been a month since he's been in office, and look where we're at. I mean, another year or two of this,
It's
I
too
don't know if
late.
we could ever come back.
It'll be too late.
There'll be no more organizations to leave in the year. So
That'd be crazy.
Well, Lev, I'd like to add something based on the credible source through some back channels on what's going on in Russia with all this. And the first reaction was not. It was mixed. It wasn't that happy because they planned everything for Zelensky to sign this paper and to continue moving.
Oh,
And
absolutely. I agree.
and when that meeting broke, they were like, not be back to square one. So
I was actually going to say that. Thank you for bringing that up, Alex. I was going to mention that to Malcolm, Tira, hey Tira, and to Yehuda. I was going to bring that point up because a lot of people are thinking, "Oh my God, Russia! What are they?" They're upset because listen, people, Russia is in trouble. Russia cannot sustain this war going on for another year or year and a half. They cannot do that. Russia's economy is going to, and plus there's another thing we don't even talk about that, there's chatter, up, behind the scenes that Russia's scared. How do we bring all of these troops back home? Because
they want
remember
it back.
what happened in 1990s. 1990s was because of Afghanistan. Now you're going to have all of these troops that are coming home that are, dismantled. I mean, without limbs. All the. You also have to understand that the Russian people are only starting to realize. And Alex, you could talk about that there are people actually dying on the front lines because in Russia they're glorifying it by paying you to go to the front lines. So right now, only people are starting to realize that people are not coming home. Am I correct, Alex?
Yes, that is the true. And in Chelyabinsk, one city that has 450,000 population, the just death, is like almost 1,200. Not to mention the wounded. Now, for one little town, that's huge, and people are beginning to realize that that they've been used as a meat. And I'm talking to some of my friends who are on the front lines that I have contacts with, and they tell me in some areas like Pokrovsk, like around those regions, that they took back about 3 towns, and they're saying lately it's a lot of cripples. They see a lot of cripples on the front lines. That's the stuff that they didn't see before, that they definitely can spot the shortage in people. And through my back channels, what I hear also that they starting to having problems with meat. They're not getting enough people right now because people begin to realize that they've been sent to be killed. So this is the mood in Russia right now. And also the financial problems are out of this world. I mean, they're trying to patch it up. There are rumors that about half the gold disappeared, and there are some investigations what happened to it, and there are a lot of things going on, and that they have no money. Plus, also every week, Ukraine destroys oil fields, or oil refineries, oil pipes. Last week, they hit the 3 airports with the precise emissions. So this is beginning to push them. And when Trump just created a little distance between this deal, this gives them more time. And especially when Zelensky said, I don't want a ceasefire. I want to stop the war. And Russia needs a ceasefire because they need to regroup because they're having a problem. So this is why they right now kind of he almost shot them in the foot by doing what he did in the White House with Zelensky. Because
absolutely, because right now he's not going to be very useful, because if all of a sudden Zelensky cuts a deal with the Europeans, and the other thing that I wanted to mention, I don't know if you guys saw that, but Zelensky's chief of staff Yermak came out on Twitter and basically said that a message to China saying that we are now, after our meeting at the White House, we are now open to all communication with China and any help China wants to give us. Literally straight out that. So, China hasn't, opened up its mouth, as they say. We haven't seen them yet. They've been standing on the sideline watching this play out, but they're extremely dangerous. I mean, Yehuda, Tira, you want to add anything on that?
Well, I think that what you're seeing right now is all of the United States allies are probably thinking about where else they can go. And while I don't think people necessarily trust China, I think they view them as a possibly more rational actor than the United States has been. So I think Europe is probably looking, to see whether there can be trade deals, etc. I know that Canada is. Because it just seems like you'd rather go with the more predictable person than the person who is, turning his back on all the allies. You mentioned before, Lev, about the Congress, and one of the problems is that in America, although we do have a system of checks and balances, what that requires is that each part of the government assumes its roles. Congress. Okay. I don't know if Lev,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry, go
okay.
ahead.
Congress has abrogated its role, quite frankly. I mean, it is Congress who has what's called the power of the purse. Congress has basically appropriated funds, and if Donald Trump shuts them off, Congress has the power to sort of sue him and say, you can't do this, etc. Congress is not doing this. They are not doing it in any respect. And I think one of the questions that had been asked before was whether the United States could leave NATO. The answer is
that was one of the questions. So Tara, the question was, how can they legally do it? Can someone or can Trump just say, here's an executive order, I'm leaving it, tough beans?
All right. Well, NATO has, I think it's Article 13, if I'm right about that, says that you can give notice and a year later you're out of NATO. So NATO has a procedure. The question becomes who gives the notice and, what would have to happen. The United States I think it was December of 2023, passed a law called the National Defense Authorization Act, which said that Congress had to approve leaving NATO by a 2/3 margin in the Senate, or maybe it was both houses. However, the problem with that is what I just said. If Congress doesn't do anything, then they would have to presumably sue, and they can't sue individually generally because it's an issue of standing. They have to sue as a body, and you can tell right now they're not going to sue as a body because they are literally enthralled to Donald Trump. So what would happen there is he would just announce we're leaving in a year, And if they do nothing, it's unclear whether anyone else could sue under the National Defense Authorization Act, or whether the courts would, in fact, even if they were to sue, would say that it's the president's prerogative to deal with foreign, aid with foreign governments, etc. So it's
Here,
possible he could leave.
But here, let me ask you, I mean, just on that, I mean, that's just if he was gonna leave and everything is, let's say, quiet and let's say like there's, war going on. Let's say tomorrow all of a sudden Putin does something where Article 5 is triggered. He hits Poland or something like that while we're still officially part of NATO. What happens then? I mean, if Trump, who's in charge of that? I mean, can Trump pull out American troops and American? I mean, because it's so I mean, it's somebody's been asking me that question, and I don't even know how to properly because it's so intertwined. Would Trump have any leeway on NATO and our troops and the NATO troops in it right now while we're in it, or I mean, or could he just pull everybody out?
Yes. The answer, can you hear me? I had to put my earphones on. Is that
Yeah, yeah.
okay? Okay.
Yeah.
The
I
answer
hear you.
is, I believe yes. Short of pulling out of NATO, in fact, it's exactly what he's suggesting that he's doing now, which is removing troops from the states that entered after 1997. That has been apparently been discussing. He's been discussing it. There is nothing that would stop him from, let's just say, pulling out the troops or not honoring obligations under Article 5. He can just sort of do that. And I don't know how anybody would have the power to stop him, quite frankly. So even short of leaving NATO, he can basically disassemble NATO in a way, or defang NATO in many senses. And I suspect from what I'm reading that is what he's going to try and do. Right? Because that's the easy way. Don't create the legal issue. Just sort of say, look, we're just not going to do X, Y, and Z. And I don't have an answer for this, because we've sort of seen that Donald Trump has been given unparalleled power by our United States Supreme Court. And I think in the area of foreign policy, they will continue to do that.
That's the problem. I agree with you, Thierry. I mean, that's the biggest problem is with the Supreme Court. They've given him such a leeway and power, and I think it's just going to enable him to do more. I want to first of all thank Tira. I know some of the guests, Malcolm and Yehuda, had to go. I want to thank you, and Alex. I want to thank you guys for coming. I know it was short notice. I want to thank everybody and all the listeners out there that came out to let members to join on such short notice. I apologize for the technical issues with the cameras, and we have to cut it short because now my phone is about to die. I promise you we're going to get all of this cleared up, and we got a lot of information to bring to you. We have a lot of incredible guests, and especially a lot of stuff behind the scenes where you're not going to see on MSNBC or CNN or Fox, because a lot of these people I know personally, and we're going to bring it to you here on Love Remember. So again, thank you. I want you everybody have a wonderful, blessed day. Thank you, Tira, Alex, again for coming, and everybody out there for listening. Please subscribe to the channel, and definitely subscribe to my Substack, which I'm going to be doing some special stuff on for my Substack subscribers. So definitely subscribe to YouTube, Substack. Follow me on Twitter, because we're going to be getting a lot of information out and getting the truth out, what's happening in Ukraine, Russia, but most importantly with our one and only Donald J. Trump and his administration. Thank you again, and have a wonderful, blessed Sunday. Take care.
Thank you for having us, Lev.
Thanks.
Okay.
You.
Bye.
Victor, turn it off.